Hi, everybody. My name is Gwen Roth, and I work for the Hamilton County Conservation District. And today we're going to talk about the Caring for Our Watersheds contest. So I'm going to start off by sharing my screen to talk all about all the great things that the contest has to offer. So Caring for Our Watersheds is an international competition where students in many provinces in Canada, several places in the United States, and even in Argentina are competing. Now, I don't tell you this to get you nervous, okay? Because you're not competing against any of those students all over the world. You are only competing against high school students within the state of Ohio. But before we get into too many of the specifics about the contest, first I want to talk a little bit in general about what is a watershed. So we're going to start with this video.
What is a watershed? Is it a shed that holds water? Nah, try again. A watershed is all of the land that drains into the same location or body of water. People tend to think only of water bodies such as rivers, lakes and wetlands as being part of their watershed. However, any land, whether it is park, farm, forest, school parking lot, and even the soil we build our homes on is also included. Think of a watershed as a funnel, collecting all the water within a specific area and draining into the nearest body of water. Drop by drop, water is channeled into soil, groundwater, creeks and streams, making its way to larger rivers and eventually the ocean. Everyone in the world lives in a watershed. Watersheds know no political borders, whether local, national or international. Our environment, our economy and our society all depend on a healthy watershed.
So we learned in that video that watersheds really know no political borders, that water doesn't care if it's flowing downhill, if it's in Canada or the United States, Ohio or Indiana. Okay, basically think of a watershed like a funnel. It includes all of the air, the water, and the land. So when we're talking about projects today about watersheds, please don't just think you have to go clean up a stream or a waterway, because it really does include the air, the water, and the land surrounding it. So why is this important for us to care about a watershed?
When you really philosophize about it, there's only one thing you don't have enough of: time.
Over 70% of the Earth is covered in water, but how much can you actually use? I think you'll be surprised, but only 2.5% of the Earth's water is fresh water, and only 0.3% of this is clean and accessible for humans because water is locked in ice, underground, and in our atmosphere. Ideal water is limited, and so is soil. 30% of the Earth is covered in land, with over 7 billion people living on it. As the human population continues to grow, we are putting more pressure on our finite natural resources. In addition to supporting humans, plants and animals also depend on these precious resources. Natural resources are essential to our survival, so it's critical that we take action to conserve and protect them. If the big picture of our world doesn't inspire you to make a difference, think about the local picture. We all live downstream from someone. What they do impacts us, what we do impacts us, and it impacts our neighbors. These actions might not be as obvious as someone littering or unnecessarily idling their car. It can be a negative action that impacts the environment indirectly or over time. I'm not trying to point a finger at anyone, but we can all do better. It bugs me to think about things like pharmaceutical drugs being flushed down the toilet, plastic water bottles and bags being overused and improperly disposed of, urban sprawl, paving over good farmland and wildlife habitat, and even dogs pooping and owners leaving it there so it runs down the storm drains and directly into our rivers. With such a limited amount of water and a limited amount of land, it's important that every single day of the year we take the time and effort to help the land, air, and water. Think global. Act local.
So there's a lot of great things in that video, but going back, You've learned this way back in like second or third grade, that about 3/4 of our planet is covered in water, but we probably didn't think about that only 2.5% of that is fresh water. And in the video, they said used by 7 billion people, but now we're up to 8 billion people on our planet, okay? And only about 3.3% of the water on our planet is usable by us. So if we were to take all the water in the world and put it into an 18-liter container, now remember I said this started in Canada, so they think in liters, but you guys can picture 9 2-liters lined up. Only about 3 tablespoons of that would be the usable water that people use every day for all of the things we use water for cooking, for cleaning, for drinking, for washing ourselves, our clothes, our dog, all those different types of things. And water is really critical to us. The average human body is a little over 50% water. And interestingly enough, our lungs are about 90% water. Even our brain is about 70% water. And studies have shown if you are actually well hydrated, you will think better. So before a test, while you're studying, make sure you're actually very well hydrated, because it will actually help your brain to function better. So now we're going to specifically start to talk about our watershed and where our water actually sheds or flows to.
Do you have your facts straight about where your watershed is located? Everyone in the world lives in a watershed. You live in the Ohio River watershed. Your watershed is 204,000 square miles, and it starts in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the Allegheny and Monongahela rivers join. The major rivers and creeks that make up the Ohio River watershed in your area are the Little Miami River, the Mill Creek, and the Great Miami River. Most of the water comes from rain and snowfall. All of the water that is collected in the watershed flows to the Mississippi River and onto the Gulf of Mexico. The Ohio River is the source of drinking water for more than 3 million people. Did you know over 25 million people, that's almost 10% of the US population, live in the Ohio River basin? But remember, a watershed is more than just the water around us. It's also the air we breathe and the places we live, work, and play. We also share it with the wildlife, birds, and plants. I'm going to leave you with something to think about. Water consumption is one way we impact our watershed. How much water do you think North Americans use in one day per person? About 330 liters or 87 gallons per person a day. That's 2.7 times more than people in Germany and almost 30 times more than people in Africa. That's an incredible difference. Doesn't it make you wonder what we could be doing better? The more we learn, the better we understand, the more we can help.
So I will tell you, when I first saw that video, I thought there was absolutely no way that I used 87 gallons of water a day. But really, when you start to think about that, that includes not just the water we drink, but the water we wash our clothes with, the water that is our food is grown with and transported to and cooked with, and all those other things. So on average, a North American uses about 87 gallons of water per person per day, which is just a staggering amount of water when you really start to think about it. Now, all of you have seen a map of the United States before. You just might not have seen a map colored quite like this. So that orange blob in the middle, that's the Ohio River watershed. It also includes that little kind of comma, little weird shaped thing right underneath it in purple. That's the Tennessee River watershed, which technically flows into the Ohio River. So that orange purplish blob is actually the Ohio River watershed. And as we saw in the video, 3 million people are getting their drinking water from the Ohio River. So think about all the farms, all the factories, the roads, the schools, the parking lots, everything that is causing potential pollution to shed or flow into the Ohio River. And then 3 million people who are depending on that same river for their drinking water. It's really staggering when we start to think about it. And I do want to stress that the water that comes out of that river is cleaned very well. So that's not a huge concern, but we do have to be concerned about the amount of stuff going into it, because then that matters for how we get that stuff out of it and how we clean it. Now, everything we do in some form or another impacts our air, our land, and our water. Okay, so what we eat, where we travel, how we get from one place to another. I'm guessing the last time you bought jeans at the grocery store, sorry, you did not buy jeans at the grocery store, but the last time you bought jeans, you probably didn't think about the amount of water that it takes to manufacture those jeans. Cotton is a very water intensive crop, and to make that denim, to make those jeans, it really costs a lot in terms of natural resources. So thinking about all those things that we do and how it positively and negatively impacts our environment. Now, I want to spend a little bit of time on this slide because we're talking here about some things that are happening correctly in our watershed and maybe some things that we can really improve in our watershed. So the slide on the left is really how things are happening correctly, how it's done right. So you'll see that owner is picking up after their dog waste, and the gentleman is sweeping off his driveway with a broom and not hosing it down. They have a rain barrel attached to their house, which is actually a giant barrel that just captures rainwater. The water runs right off the roof into the gutters and into the downspouts and then into the barrel. And that barrel of water then can be used to water all of your plants later. It's like free water. We don't have to use the clean, treated water that comes to our house to water our plants. And also planting native plants. That's a huge thing because native plants are designed for our environment. They can adapt very well to our periods of dry and wet and heat and cold. So native plants do much better than non-native plants. Now, on the right side, some of the things that we can help improve. Washing your car on your driveway is actually not a great place to do it. Pull it into your lawn and wash it on your lawn so the water can percolate down into the grass, or take it to a car wash where they will recycle some of that water and use it again. Whatever you do, please do not dump anything down a storm drain. A storm drain is basically that drain on your street, and they were originally designed to make water go away. Okay, the engineers put them in there because they really didn't want water ponding on the street because that can cause accidents and be very dangerous. So originally they were designed to just go to the nearest creek or stream to take water away, which we all know is not a fairy tale land where all the dirty stuff goes. But many years ago, in a lot of cities in the Midwest, not just Cincinnati, but Indianapolis and Pittsburgh and Cleveland, Toledo, Lexington, Louisville, all of these types of cities really have very old infrastructure when it comes to their sewers. And many of them have something called combined sewers. Combined sewers basically just take that storm sewer, which is on your street, along with the sanitary sewer. And the sanitary sewer is anything that washes down your drain. So it leaves your kitchen sink, your bathroom sink, your shower, your toilet. And that sanitary drain goes to a wastewater treatment plant where that water gets cleaned up and treated before it gets dumped back into the river. Well, as I said, many of these older cities have combined those two sewers, that sanitary sewer and that storm sewer. And now all the water goes to the wastewater treatment. In theory, this is a really great idea because then all the dirty water that's on the street gets cleaned up too. However, our wastewater treatment plants cannot handle when we get a lot of rainfall. So they literally shut down the intakes and they can't take in any more water. And what happens is those pipes, that combined sewer that has the toilet water and the storm water in it, will overflow into the nearest creek or stream. And we call these things CSOs, combined sewer overflows. So anything that just got flushed down the toilet or anything that ran off the street can potentially end up in a creek or stream. Now, in Cincinnati, the Sierra Club sued the city of Cincinnati and the Metropolitan Sewer District and Hamilton County commissioners many, many years ago. And we are now under a consent decree, which basically means an agreement to clean it up. Now, this cleanup process is not easy at all and will take maybe decades to fix and probably billions of dollars with a B. So a lot of things when we talk about watersheds and when we talk about urban water use, we really like to keep excess water out of the storm system so that the sanitary water can stay in that system and not overflow. Now that leads me to how you can help. And I know sometimes this seems really daunting. As part of this contest, we're not asking you to save the entire world. That's really not a possibility. What we want you to do is we want you, like they said in the video, to think global, but act local. What are some small things that we can do in our community that will move the needle towards a better environment? So talking about the contest specifically, we have one last video here.
What's bugging you? There's a lot that can be changed to make our watersheds healthier. If a worker ant can carry 20 times its own body weight to help its community, how much work can you carry to help yours? The Caring for Our Watersheds program has asked the question, what can you do to improve your watershed? Youth from all over the world are making a difference in their communities. Like Cam from Calgary, Alberta, who installed bat boxes and birdhouses to reduce insects. Students from Vigilia, Argentina, who got their whole community together to plant butterfly gardens that increase biodiversity and create a wall mural to raise awareness. Fozia and Alexander from Carmen, Manitoba, who submitted a song to inspire and encourage others to protect their watersheds. And Allison, Jesse, and Levi from Greeley, Colorado, who replaced their school's toilets to low-flow options. Take a look around you and think how you can protect and improve the water, air, and land. Pick one concern. Come up with one solution. For every problem, there are hundreds of solutions. You just have to come up with one. Research and discuss your ideas with parents, teachers, and friends, and local experts. Explain it in a written proposal. Include graphics, models, pictures, or videos to support your idea. This isn't another school paper. This is a proposal to community judges, so sell your idea to them as being the best. And don't be afraid to think outside the box. Consider your talents or passions. How can your personal interests create a solution to your problem? Remember, you can have fun while taking meaningful action in your community. I get it, we're not ants, but seriously, you can make a difference and win prizes for yourself and your school or club. If you have a solution, we want to hear it. If you want to take action, we can help make it happen. Project funding and mentorship is available. Brought to you by Nutrien and community partners around the world.
So really the main thing about this contest is it's built around you. What can you do to improve your watershed? So look around your community, and I don't care how you define community. This could be your school community, your neighborhood community, your vacation home community, your parents, your grandparents' nursing home community. Really, what is a problem you see in your local community and how are you going to fix it? And this is a proposal contest. This isn't another research paper about the problem, but how are we going to fix that problem? How are you going to fix that problem? Now, as we talked in the video, we wanted you to think global, but act local. These 17 goals here are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And what we want you to do is we want you to tie your project to at least one of these goals. So how are what we are doing now, how is that tying in to one of these goals? And these goals are developed, as I said, by the United Nations, and many hundreds, maybe even thousands of organizations are working towards these 17 goals. Non-governmental organizations, governmental organizations, religious organizations, nonprofits, all of them really are trying to take these 17 goals and work towards them to make our world a better place. So as you're thinking about your project, think about how this fits into that global picture. So some examples of implemented projects we've had in the past. This is actually our 11th year that we are in the state of Ohio. We started off for our first 7 years just in Hamilton County, which is the Cincinnati area, but now we've expanded to the whole entire state of Ohio. So we've had lots and lots of implemented projects, and I just pulled out a few just to show you. We had students last year from Ursuline Academy who actually had a rain barrel painting contest in each of their grades in school. And they had each grade winner paint a barrel, and then they placed those barrels around their community with signage to help educate people about what rain barrels were and how they could use them in their own home. We had students from Wyoming High School that installed aerators in their bathroom sinks. Now, an aerator is basically a little thing you just screw onto the bottom of that faucet, and it has a little screen in it. And when the water hits that screen, it adds air bubbles to it. And it actually feels like the water has more force behind it than it does. So you're using less water to wash your hands with. So they're actually saving lots and lots of water at their school. Now, we had a student from Withrow High School a couple of years ago. And when I went to his class, I said, "What's a problem you see in your community?" And he said, "The trees out by our football field are dying." And I said, "Okay, that's interesting. What are you going to do about that?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to water all those trees." And I looked at him and I said, "Really? Are you going to water all those trees every week for who knows how long?" So really, as he started thinking through the idea, he said, "You know what, that's maybe not possible. What I could do though is build a little dam, essentially a little barrier on the downslope side of the tree. So the water travels down the hill and it kind of flattens out when it hits that tree and that dam, just enough so the water can soak down and the roots can suck it up and the roots can survive and the tree can survive." He did not water the trees every week like originally thought, but those trees are now doing really well because he was able to capture the water that was already there and divert it just a little bit so that it could save those trees. We had students from Summit Country Day who did a project on anti-idling. So at that school, there's a lot of personal vehicles showing up to pick up and drop off the students. And they would oftentimes show up maybe 30 minutes before school even let out and wait in the carpool lines with their engine running. And these students said, "No, that's not a good idea. All of that air pollution has to stop." So they put signs up around campus. They put newsletter articles in the parent newsletter. They made announcements at school about why it was really important to turn off your car while you're sitting there waiting and not letting all of that exhaust into the environment. We had another student last year from Loveland High School who did a drug take-back program. You might remember back in that video, they said something about it bugs me when we throw prescription medication down the toilet. We used to tell people to do that all the time. And then we learned that's not really a good idea because it doesn't get filtered completely out of the water. So now we encourage people to take their prescription drugs back either to a pharmacy, police station, sometimes fire stations have them, and dispose of them properly. So this student actually had a drug take back program at her school where people could drop off during a certain time period and those drugs were disposed of properly and not released into our waterways. And finally, we had a student from John Marshall School of Engineering who developed an interesting problem that we might not think about when we think about watersheds. She said, There were a lot of women in her community that didn't have access to menstrual products. So what she wanted to do is she wanted to develop some reusable menstrual products. So she made these reusable menstrual products, passed them out to women in her community with some cleaning products and some directions on how to clean them and how to reuse them properly. So lots and lots of different ideas that these students are coming up with, and I'm sure that you're thinking about right now. So what I want you to do, I want you to take a few minutes, and you can pause this video if you want, but I want you to take a few minutes to actually brainstorm some ideas. What are some problems that you see in your community? And maybe it's sometimes easy to just start with the problem. I see this, this is a problem. What can I do about that? And then we can move into some of those solutions. So take a few minutes, pause the video, think about that. And now we're back. So some solutions to some of those ideas I hope that you started thinking of. And now your brain is starting to think a little bit in that caring for our watersheds mindset. What's a problem that I see and what can I do about that? So specifically how the contest works. What we want you to do is we want you to answer the question, what can you do to improve your watershed? And again, in that video, we want you to name one concern and one solution. We want you to focus on that one solution because there could be many, many, many solutions to that one problem, but you focus on that one solution that you can do. You're going to write a short proposal, about 1,000 words, okay, approximately 1,000 words, maybe 900 to 1,100 words is okay. But this is not a research paper. Okay, think of this like Shark Tank. What can I do? Here's my proposal. Here's how I'm going to do this. You're going to turn those proposals into me. I'm going to have a group of judges who review those proposals, and they're going to narrow them down to the 10 best proposals. And then we're going to work with those teams to actually implement their projects. And then those teams win prizes for themselves and their school. And we'll get into that in a little bit. So here's what a proposal is going to look like. And if you go to the website, you can find this student guide to a successful proposal on there. Hint, hint. If you want a successful proposal, here's some things you can do. Now, you certainly don't have to number your proposal like it is on the student guide, and you don't have to follow it exactly. It's just a good guide to understand this is what we're looking for when we're reading through proposals. So you're going to do an introduction, and this is the really interesting part. We don't want you to name yourselves or your school. Okay, so don't put your name or your school name in the proposal because we want the judges to be able to review these proposals with no bias whatsoever. So in my community, my partner and I, we're going to work with our maintenance man. You know, they want specifics, but not too specific so they know where it is. Define your watershed, but again, don't take too much time on that. And then you want to identify the concern. And this is really where you're going to get most of the meat of your proposal. You're going to explain how you're going to do it, how you're going to fix the problem. What is your solution? What's the scope of your project? How many people is it going to reach? Can it be expanded and benefit more parts of the watershed? Really important, in bright, bold, blue, all caps, you have to include a budget. Now, this is critical. A lot of you may have read we have $10,000 for implementation. That is true, but that includes all 10 teams. So your project, if you get funded from Caring for Our Watersheds, can get a maximum of $1,000 from Caring for Our Watersheds, okay? So if your project costs $1,800, you're gonna have to explain in your proposal where that extra $800 is coming from. Is the PTO helping? Are you gonna have a bake sale? Is one of your parents gonna throw in money? Like, I don't know, where's that money gonna come from? Okay, but assume that you have up to $1,000 for your project. And if your project only costs $80, that's fine too. You don't have to spend the whole amount of money, but you do have to include a budget about what your proposal is going to cost. Think about all the parts of your proposal. If you're having a volunteer day, you have to feed those volunteers. You have to at least give them some water. So what are all of the things that cost money? And that might even include in-kind stuff. Maybe somebody's going to print some stuff off for you. That's still a cost to them, maybe not to the Caring for Our Watersheds contest, but it's still a cost. So definitely include what we call in-kind stuff as well. And then finally, as part of your proposal, you're just going to wrap it all up into a good conclusion. And again, like I said, we're going to narrow those proposals down to the top 10. And those 10 teams are going to get up to $1,000. Okay, whatever your budget was, with a little tweaking is still possible. And you're going to be matched up with a mentor, and you're actually going to have a chance to go out and implement your project. After your project is implemented, you're going to come back to the finals. And we are going to host that this year at the Cincinnati Zoo. And the teams, each top 10 team gets a chance to win prizes. The first place team wins $1,000, down to the 10th place team wins $300. And that is money for you to do with whatever you want. You can put it towards college, you can put gas in your car, you can give it to your little brother, whatever you want, okay? The school, though, also receives matching money. And the school can't do with it whatever they want. We would really prefer that they do it with some environmental or some green or science-related projects. So proposals are due to me on January 20th. Your teacher might move up that deadline. That's up to them, but they're due to me on January 20th. Again, they will go through 2 rounds of judging before you find out if you're in the top 10. And you will find out you're in the top 10 probably around the second or third week of February. Okay. And then you will have from that time, from mid to late February until the end of April, to implement your project. So when you're thinking about things that you can do to improve your watershed, you're going to think about your budget. You only have up to $1,000 from us. You're going to think about your timeline from about mid to late February to late April. So maybe only 2.5 months. Think about all the other sports, all the other things that are happening during that time, and really think about ideas that can fit into that timeline and that budget. Okay, so putting a green roof on your school is an amazingly fabulous idea. Probably not doable with $1,000 in 8 weeks. Okay, so what other types of things? And we've talked about things in the videos. We've talked about past implemented projects. There are other projects that you can check out on the website as well to give you an idea of other things that have been done in the past. The final event, as I said, will be hosted at the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Garden, and that will happen on Saturday, May 6th. Now, what I want you to do as part of this, I want you to think creatively, okay? Really work on identifying new solutions to old problems. Recycling has been around for longer than I have, but yet people still aren't recycling correctly. So what is it, what can we do? What's that new shtick that we can throw onto that to get people to either recycle better or recycle differently, recycle hard to recycle items, whatever that is. A really cool thing about the project is you get to see your idea become reality. You obviously help your environment and you win prizes for yourself. In this picture that I have here on the slide, we actually had a group that developed this cool little children's story about a guide to becoming a watershed superhero. And they drew some pictures and they had some really great ideas for little kids, and they shared that story with little kids to continue that education. Now, my information is on here. My job is never, ever, ever to judge proposals, okay? My job is really to help you have the best proposal you can. So at any time, if you've hit a wall and you can't think of your budget, or you can't decide between 2 projects, or there's some other issue that you just need a little guidance on, reach out to me. Probably not through the phone. I'm usually not in the office very much, but definitely send me an email and let me know how I can help. Okay, because really my job in this whole process is to help you have your job, or help you have the best proposal that you can have. And finally, I want to share this student, Sonia from Loveland High School, actually won first place last year with her project to recycle contact lenses and their blister packs that they come in. So Sonia, when I went to her class and I said, what's a problem you see in your community? And she said, well, I wear daily contacts and I just throw them away or flush them down the toilet all the time. And then she really started thinking about that and what that really meant. And it's like, oh my goodness, that's 2 contacts every day times how many days in a year times how many people. That's millions of contact lenses being flushed down toilets. And those oftentimes are not filtered out in the wastewater treatment process because they are so small. So they really do end up as microplastics in our waterways and in our oceans. So Sonia actually bought some boxes from TerraCycle, which is a company that recycles hard to recycle items. And she placed them in different doctors' offices around her community so that people there, different eye doctor offices, so that people there could recycle their contact lenses and that blister packaging that they came in. And that was her way, again, maybe a small little place, but that was her way to contribute to the larger global microplastics in our ocean problem. Because again, one person with $1,000 in 8 weeks is not going to do it, but that was a significant dent in that area. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing here. And again, I want to encourage all of you, if there's any way that I can help, please reach out. I want to thank you. I know this video can be a little bit long and sometimes boring to just hear me talk over and over. Sometimes I get bored talking over and over, but really lots of good information in this video. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And I am so excited to see your proposals for the Caring for Our Watersheds program. I hope that you all have a great day, and I look forward to working with you this following year. Thank you, guys.